leadership and life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Welcome everyone to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm Roberta Pickett and I'm your host this evening. And we are talking tonight about one of my favorite topics. It's called attitude. And with me are three people who I believe represent a positive attitude in their lives. Earl Nightingale once said that attitude is the magic word. And he believed that with just attitude, you can change your life. That the way you comport yourself makes a difference in the success you have the rest of your life. And it's that powerful. So that's the topic we're going to discuss and find out a little bit more about. And with me to discuss attitude are three great people. On my left is Carol Davis, and then we have Tom Thompson and Larry Fossen. So before we get into getting each of their individual perspectives on attitude, I'd like to find out a little bit more about who they are, what their background is, and what they do now. So, Carol, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to pick on you first because you and I have some ancient history.
Yes, we do.
And we used to work in the old days together back at Sprint. And I know that you do have a positive attitude. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, good deal. Well, I am Carol Davis, and I'm from the Sacramento area, and Bert and I had the opportunity to be able to work together years ago in the training field. Yep. And so that was just a real joy to be able to work with her, and out of that training experience came the opportunity for starting a nonprofit. And so since I've known Berta, I've had the opportunity to do a whole training ministry, and I say ministry because our background was corporate training, but I'm a woman of faith, and I was always frustrated of not having the faith component very much integrated. And so I started an organization called Mission of Grace Foundation, and it's all about helping people in transition find clarity of purpose and direction. And so we have a program that it's called Passport to Purpose, and we take people through a journey of helping them answer kind of 4 life questions, and that's who am I, why am I here, where am I going, and how do I get there? And so we've been teaching that for the last 10 years, primarily to Christian professionals and church leaders. And then in the last 5 years, we've had the opportunity to also teach the inmates over at Solano Prison over in Vacaville. And that's just been an absolutely amazing experience. And so that's been an amazing journey. And then on top of all of that, kind of more recently, we've taught all these years about helping people kind of find clarity, purpose, and direction, and pursue your dreams, kind of a motivational speaking kind of thing. And this last couple of years, we had an opportunity to walk the talk as we talked about a dream we had for 14 years. And we have this building that was donated to our organization after we tried to buy it for years and years. And we ended up having the opportunity to seize that. So we're now in a crazy renovation project in order to bring that up to be a conference, retreat, and event center. And so it's kind of a crazy ride, but it's been a lot of fun.
Well, dreams can be that way, right? Because you're out there floating and you're not quite sure where you're going to land, but it's a fun ride.
Yeah.
And the Grand Island mission is on the Delta, right?
Yeah. So it's actually Grand Island is formed. The Sacramento River comes right out of Sacramento, and then it splits. And where it splits, it creates Grand Island, and it comes back together in Rio Vista. So our property is right smack in the middle of Grand Island.
And it used to be a school?
Yes, it was an elementary school. It was built in 1920, and it looks like an old mission. People drive by and they think, was it a California mission? Was it a monastery? What was it? And so it's a really beautiful building.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah. And do you have a target date for when you open?
It's totally based on all of our fundraising efforts and grant pursuits and what have you. So
Tom's could relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's great. And thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so glad. And I know, when I thought of attitude, you were definitely the first person who came to mind because I know your background.
Yeah, thanks.
So how about you, Tom? Since we sort of alluded to the fundraising aspect of things.
Yeah.
Who are you and what have you done in your life?
Well, I started out as a child.
How
And
unique.
I ended up going into the grocery business and worked in the grocery business for Raley's for 40 years. And spent
That was 4-0, right?
4-0. Yeah.
Wow.
Spent the last 14 years up here in Amador County, which I love, and became involved quite heavily with the community and enjoyed what I was doing, enjoyed my job, and then 40 years came along, decided it's time to retire and move on. And so my wife was real happy about that. House was clean, dinner was ready.
You thought you were done?
I thought I was done. But needless to say, the opportunity came up to go to work at the food bank and take over the position as executive director. I had some big shoes to fill. Kathleen Harmon had that job before, and she, really got it going and really got it going good. So basically, I've been there for a couple years now, and we've been taking care of the hungry here in Amador County, and just enjoying life.
Well, it's a good job you do. It's an amazing organization.
Yeah.
I know, being part of Rotary, the food bank is definitely one of the people or the groups that we contribute
Yep.
to all the time, and I don't think we could do without it in this county. There's
know.
a lot more hunger
There is a need. There is a
than
need.
we hate to think about.
But the community is, we're fully community supported. There's always somebody there to give a hand, and Amador County is just amazing, period, and I know you know that.
I do.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, welcome to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And last but definitely not least, Larry Fossen. Tell us about yourself.
Well, it started back when I was a young baby coming into the world.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said, wow, this is quite a place.
Where'd
And
you grow
That's
up?
where I got started. Northwestern Wyoming.
Oh.
Powell, Wyoming. I'm a ranch farm boy, raised on horses, cattle, and sheep. And I had a wonderful experience growing up in Wyoming. I moved out here in the 70s, and after the Vietnamese War, which I was in, and got out of the service then, I would say, and worked my way through different programs here in local communities, some in Sacramento, and quite a bit up here in Amador County. And I took a job with the University of California Cooperative Extension in Amador County. I was a 4-H youth development person. And I had many years of wonderful experience working with project leaders, kids, and community members, including Tom. And so I've been through a road of many community organizations, and I've developed several programs. One is speech and leadership programs. I have several courses that I teach. I have developed a curriculum for, and I'm on my 17th year with that program
Really?
now. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other program I developed
Is
was...
that for kids and adults, or?
It is for kids and adults, yes. And it's an array of 5
should
different
say young
courses.
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's for everybody regardless of age, except you have to be 9 years old
Okay.
and above.
Wow.
One time, an 8-year-old got into one of my classes, and I found out why you don't have anyone 9 years old and below in the course. Because once she got some empowerment, she started giving speeches in school, at home, at the breakfast table, in the morning. Wherever she could give a speech, she would give a speech. So we start at 9 years old. It's a little better that way. But I have one more one. It is the Well-Being and Possibility course. And I went through the Caldwell Foundation training and was asked to develop a course in well-being and possibility thinking, and I did. And it's marvelous. It helped me quite a bit with my attitude and the things that I do in life, so I really enjoyed it. But I've had time to really think about things, and I came here today with an attitude.
You did. What kind
Yes.
of attitude is that?
It's a positive.
It's the only way to be.
Yes. So I'm from Wyoming, went through the military, worked with the University of California, worked with kids and families and community organizations, and here I am.
That's great.
So that's about it.
Yeah, well, it's a lot, and I know, you talk to the 4-H kids, your name is always there.
Yes.
You've definitely been a mainstay for them for many years, and
Yeah, it was a wonderful organization. It still is.
yeah.
And I enjoyed working with all the kids, the parents, project leaders, and the community people that participated and helped us.
Yeah,
So it was great.
well, good. Well, so I've got 3 great people with positive attitudes here tonight, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit deeper. I really want to find out what you think about attitude and what impact it either has had on you or what you perceived the impact it has on others around you and how it works. But before we do have to take a commercial break because we've got good sponsors here in Amador County, and we want to give them some time too. So stick with us, don't go away, but come right back, and we'll be back in a few minutes for more on insights and leadership in life.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi there, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and we are talking about attitude tonight. So I've got with me 3 guests, Carol Davis, Tom Thompson, and Larry Fossen. And I'm going to pick on Tom first.
Figures.
Yeah, figures. You are the executive director of the Interfaith Food Bank, right?
Yep.
And I came across a quotation by Harold Janine, who is the past president of ITT Corp. And he said, leadership is practiced not so much in words as in attitude and in action. So you have been, you're an executive director now of a nonprofit, but you were also high-level management for in the grocery business. So what about that? Leadership is not so much about words, but more about attitude and action. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I always thought it was important to display a positive attitude all the time, and to give the opportunity to let your actions, be the result of that positive attitude.
So for you, how did attitude show up? And whether it was back then or currently in your current position, what does attitude look like?
Well, it's I think it's being able to be positive when things around you are not so positive, and be able to drive the people around you, try to inspire them to be positive. If you're constantly being have a positive attitude, and you're not, you're not letting anything that's going on personally in your own life, you're always keeping that level of being positive. And you hope that again rubs off on the folks that you're working with, and that they will be inspired to do a better job.
Yeah, that it's contagious.
Contagious is the word, yes.
Yeah. So you have a reputation for being a positive guy. Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I got to say I have been.
Yeah.
Like I said, regardless of what's going on in my personal life, and I think all leaders should be that way. You're the fact that people look to you for guidance, they depend on you. When you're running a business, whatever it is, if you're at the food bank, you're looking to buy food, and you're looking to buy food cheap so that you can feed more people, or you're running a supermarket, and the employees that work for you or work with you depend on you to make sure that business is successful, so that they can continue to be successful.
Yeah, people sometimes forget that unless the business is successful, all those jobs and opportunities and benefits go away.
Yeah.
So it is critical.
Yeah.
And so you feel that attitude has a significant piece to play in the success of that.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, and it's important for the people that you work with to try to maintain a positive attitude themselves, regardless of what's going on in their personal lives. But that's a very difficult thing to do, because it's not easy to just leave it at home.
No,
we all know that.
Yeah.
It's
we're all whole people.
So that's
go
where
to
I say
work.
that the leader needs to be try to keep that going steady, straight ahead. And
Modeling the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about bad attitude? How often do you think that bad attitude shows up?
I don't know. Bad attitude is just some folks. They're just negative. The challenge is to try to encourage them to become positive and to try to lead them in that direction. Negativity is disruptive in the workplace.
It's contagious too.
Yes,
Yeah.
but so is a positive attitude.
Exactly, they both are.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's interesting. You wonder, is the negative attitude because of circumstances, or are circumstances driven because of the negative attitude? A little bit of both.
well, a lot of
You
people
see
don't
that?
like change.
Yes,
they
isn't that the
change.
truth?
They'll fight it no matter what. And so, one thing I learned early in my career was, as a leader, that people will want to know why you're doing things. So you always want to take that opportunity to explain to them, communicate that why we're doing this change, why we're moving in this direction, and you need to move with us.
Yeah, I remember back in my corporate days too, there were oftentimes changes that we didn't necessarily agree with either in management,
Sure.
and yet, because of the position we were in, we had to find a way to put a good face on that, and not in a fake way, but
Yep.
to say, there is a reason
Yes.
that this is being done, and what is that, and how can I help others understand that so that they can accept it
And
as
you can
well.
only hope that
Yeah.
the higher ups will give you that reason why. Otherwise, you have to
sort of
work it. You have to
work
work
it a
it
little
out.
harder.
Yeah.
That's
But,
very true.
So,
Yeah. So what about as an employee, having a positive attitude versus a negative? What happens within the organization for someone who has a positive or negative attitude? Do you think it affects their chances for a long-term career?
if they're not, if for some reason they're just not happy with, they're in a job, they've selected a job, and they're there because that's the only job they can find, and they're only there for one reason. Let's call it money.
That's a strange one.
They're not going to be happy. And so as a leader, you have to try to, coach and inspire them. Again, I use the word inspire. To get them to be a part of the team, to be a part of the direction that we're heading, and so be supportive of that.
Yeah, given the circumstance you were just explaining, it's almost like getting them to get inspired for something more than just the money aspect of the job.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes,
Yeah.
But then again, as a positive attitude, it develops teamwork, and it supports the direction that you're moving, so that you hope that you also get in a situation where positive people will pound, or negative people will pound on positive people, and occasionally they'll succumb to the negative ways, and so communication is very important to keep.
And kind of keeping on top of it as well, right?
yeah.
Making sure that you're aware at all times of what the attitude is in the
Sure.
just around you,
Yeah.
what's going on around
Yeah.
you. What else do you think about attitude? Do you what about in your home life? How does that show up? Does your wife say, "Do you have an attitude?"
Well, I think everybody does in one way
all
or
do
another.
once in a while.
We get frustrated.
Yeah.
With maybe something's not going right, but the end result positive about it. And children,
Yeah.
write down,
Yes. So what's to them for their lives?
to be not to be negative, silver lining. Look to the good side.
Do you have a role model?
I meant and
About them that your role models.
change felt, taught me communicate that same thing.
That all of life is change, and how do you roll? They aren't always changing. What?
We just, and down, things are slowing down. I'm going, be there. There. They said something. But, you know, my dog's going, yeah.
Do you think what they're growing up in, is it future or same no matter whether it's years from now?
Just thinking, it may be the same challenges and later on are going to be bumps in the road. Positive, kids all have their then when it comes, you know, and so.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're going to cut here, have a commercial back to
Network.
What does it take?
Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight on Insights on Leadership and Life. I've got 3 guests here with me this evening to talk about attitude, and that's Tom Thompson, Carol Davis, and Larry Fossen. So Larry, I'm going to pick on you this segment of the show.
Pick on me, I'm ready.
As you mentioned, I'm close enough to give you the head swap.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So you're the program coordinator for Fossen's Possibility Speaking Program. Is that what you call it?
Yes, it's the business I'm putting together now. I'm working on a website. It'll be called the Fossen's Possibility Program. It'll have 2 phases. The first phase will be speech and leadership skills. We'll offer courses online for people, and the second phase is well-being and possibility thinking, and we'll offer a course on well-being and go through the whole thing. And it's full of attitude, the kind of attitude you'd like.
I bet it is.
So that's what I'm working on now. I retired 2 years ago from the University of California Cooperative Extension here in Amador County, as I mentioned before, and I've been looking at what could I do to really enjoy life in my retirement. Well, I want to do something productive, so I'm going to go on and work this program.
That's great.
And enjoy it. So that's what I'm doing.
So that word possibility program definitely intrigues me and definitely implies positive attitude around that.
Definitely. The word possibility fits almost everything that you do, because if you're going to do something, it has to be possible if you're going to accomplish it. And so how you approach it, what you do, how you think is important. And the key factor for like speech and leadership programs, if you're teaching a course in that, is a positive attitude, giving people empowerment to be positive, to be able to accomplish what they're going to do, to give them experience so they know what to do and how to do it. And that's what we do in our courses. I find that the well-being and possibility thinking course fits right in with the speech and leadership course too. Because in order to have a state of well-being, you have to have a positive approach. Could you know of someone that's in a negative attitude having a well-being moment? No, I don't see that.
And the interesting thing about that is well-being, I mean, obviously part of that is your health. You may not have your health may not be perfect, but you can still have a sense of well-being if you have that positive attitude.
That's right.
You can deal with your circumstances in spite of them if you have a positive
of all the
attitude.
negativity around you. If you have a moment in your life where you are happy, you're enjoying that moment, you have the attitude of enjoying that moment, you are in a state of well-being. And that's what it's all about, being able to go through life handling moments of negativity and doing the things that you need to do to maintain yourself in a state of positiveness. And it's not easy. So we give you tools, we give you thought forms and things that you need in order to maintain that in yourself. That's why it's so fun to come to something like this, because this is uplifting what we're doing tonight, and we're hearing about positive approaches and things that are going on. So it's nice.
So what is one thing that someone can do to believe in possibilities?
In possibilities?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is people have to have a point in their life where they can look at their life and say, okay, I want to progress from this point on and make it into whatever you want to make it into. As you do that, you take the attitude of positive approaches. Instead of the cup being half empty, it's half full.
Good one.
You know, you got to remember those types of things.
There's still some
There's
stuff
still
in there
some
to pull on.
Yes, there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And you make sure that as you're approaching this, that you give that attitude right up front to the people that you're educating and working with, so that they see it and that's modeled through you as a person. And then also you give them opportunities to have that, to experience it.
Yeah, the interesting
Without the
thing is-
experience, you can't do it.
Yeah, because if it's just your words, but you're not really modeling it, it'll fall flat.
That's right.
Yeah.
It'll fall flat. So I believe in courses that are experiential, that when you teach someone how to speak like a beginning speaker, how to speak in front of an audience, you actually give them the experience of doing it in the class so that they can model it, that they can become empowered to do it.
It's always fun to watch the first time you give a speech. I remember the first time, and it was recorded. It was, so embarrassing. But even after doing it 2 or 3 times, the difference is amazing.
Definitely.
And that encourages and said, whoa, well, at least I got better.
That's right.
May not be great yet, but
It's
at
possible.
least I'm getting better. It's possible, yeah.
You know, if you look at it like this, whatever you do in life, if you approach it with a positive attitude, even though you're going through, you mentioned negativity, things that were really troubling you. Say, for instance, if all of a sudden a crazy man came in here and pointed a gun at us and said, now, I want to hear something about whatever he wants, you know. And he has an agenda to push.
Chocolate ice cream.
Yeah. Now, when you're under the gun, as I call it, and you're trying to say something, it's very difficult because your emotions are running. What is that person going to do? You have all kinds of thoughts interfering with what you're trying to do. But the approach to the man could be, well, sir, put down your gun and let's have a nice meeting here, you know? And if they're so inclined, they might do it. I would hope so. But a positive approach to the whole thing. When you're under adversity, you always have to have an attitude of strength and confidence in yourself, because that will give you the ability to maintain empowerment in yourself to go on and accomplish the things you need to do in order to overcome it. And I'm a
yet that's the
firm
hardest-
believer in that.
I am too, and yet it's also the hardest time to hold on to it.
Definitely.
So
But
what are some
you
of
have
the
to
things you
develop
can
that.
do? How do you develop that skill set?
Well, first of all, you have to realize the importance of attitude, which is what we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
Tom did some good examples in what he talked about today.
First step.
First
Recognition.
step, recognizing. And then once you recognize it, then you give them boosts. You might do activities that give them that empowerment. Like in speech and leadership skills, we do impromptu speaking. They're given subjects they have no idea what they are. I use subjects like sniglets, which are words that should be in the dictionary but aren't. So if I gave you one that said, tell me what a Smirnoff is. Well,
have to make
you
it
have
up.
to make it up in your
That's
mind and
vodka,
be
right?
creative. Well, to some people that are experienced with Smirnoff, they might relate to that and go with that.
But I think the neat part about that too is because it is made up, there's no judgment around it.
There's
you
no
don't have to
judgment.
worry about it being right or wrong, which is what we usually get into trouble with, right?
That's right. And it's in an atmosphere of positiveness and developmental aspects. So what happens when you give these people the opportunity to speak in front of an audience in a class setting, they have to be creative in doing it, and everyone's supportive. And not everyone can actually just spout it out like they want to. They have fears and they go through it. But we work with it, we encourage them, and we always applaud and give them recognition and are so positive in our approach so they become empowered as they go through the course.
So I think that's another really important point in terms of helping others to have a positive attitude, and that is to encourage people,
you do.
recognize them for doing something right,
Amen.
and
Show appreciation.
and show appreciation, because it's so easy to feel downtrodden or just the life is hard, because it can be. So to have a little boost and
That little
encouragement
boost. Well,
makes a
in the
difference.
courses that I teach, we do that. And there's one segment, I do activities like royalty. Say I
Is
have
that
every...
like stirring your cup?
No.
Royalty?
No, it's like saying Tom's a king, she's a queen, and you're president. But we have dignitaries here, and we teach people to get up and express themselves as dignitary at a formal affair. But it's done in humor, and they have to think of things that they're known throughout the land for. It's an exercise that they go through. And when people do that, and they do repeated exercises, other activities that I give them, they come out with an empowerment and a positive attitude. So by the time they get to the end of it, my general course is 8 weeks, 2 hours a week. They'll average about 18 presentations through the
That's
course.
Impressive.
And
yeah.
so by the time they're at the end of it, they have some empowerment in it and an attitude
What-
towards speaking.
Do you ever use affirmations with your folks?
No, I don't necessarily use affirmations. I use affirmations myself.
Yeah,
Quite
I
a
do
bit.
t- I do too. So
Yeah.
that's one of my.
I'll get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and I'll affirm a few things here and there. And when I go to bed at night, I affirm a few things. I actually meditate and visualize things that I need to do and what I should do, and put a positive approach to it, and also health and energy in my body and things like that.
Because I think
It's an
that's
approach.
another way to stay positive,
It is.
especially when you're feeling down, is to have an affirmative phrase, I call them affirmations, to
Mm-hmm.
state out loud as if it's current reality. And it helps me boost myself back up.
Yes, it does.
My favorite one is, I have more than enough time, money, energy, and ability to take care of the things I need to and do all the things I choose to.
Anything is possible.
And anything
right.
is possible, yeah. And Winston Churchill once said that a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, but an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty.
Yes.
So
Well, some people have a positive approach,
we're going to wrap it up.
and they're wonderful. You'll see it wherever they go, whatever they do. All the people here at the table have a positive approach to life.
And it does
And
show.
I do appreciate it. Shows.
And I believe it does.
It shows.
Well, I can't
Thank
wait to
you.
hear more from you and also from Carol. Come right back. We're going to have a quick break and be back to Insights on Leadership in Life. Thank you.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hey, thank you for being with us tonight on Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and we are talking about attitude tonight with Tom Thompson, Carol Davis, and Larry Fawson. And this last segment, we are going to talk to Carol. As you guys probably already know, I like quotes. And one of the ones I came up with is from the writer William James. And he said, human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. And that made me think about you and the work you do, because you mentioned before when you introduced yourself that you have been doing some prison work. And I think about attitude, and I think about prisoners, and I have my own mental perspectives of what
Yeah.
that means. So can you really change somebody's inner attitudes?
I can't know.
Well,
And I
good
had
point.
to resolve that before I even stepped foot in the prison.
Good
Because
point.
there's absolutely nothing you can do to change somebody. It's it's the old adage of can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so that was intimidating going into the prison
I
and
bet.
realizing who am I to bring my program in and to be trying to hopefully see some life change, and you feel powerless because it's like someone has to choose it.
Mm-hmm.
And and so when the guys, whenever we first started teaching, they're all kind of like, why are you here? There's skepticism, and and then whenever we shared with them, we're all volunteers, none of us get paid, we are not here as paid staff, we are only here because we believe God can change your life. And that's the only reason I can do this work, is because there is no way I can do anything. All I can do is be my authentic self. And we're talking about attitude,
Right.
is to instill that positive attitude and give these guys hope. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get anywhere. And so it's interesting, first going in, being a blonde woman, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to experience as a woman in a men's prison? And the first time I stepped foot, on the grounds, I mean, it was just amazing. It is so completely different than the stereotypes you see on TV. It's like you have all the riffraff, but the core group of people that we're dealing with, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they want to change. And you have some, that you first start off, of people that, they just want to get out and do something different, enjoy some air conditioning in the visitor center, and some
They're
of them will
not
come
really
in,
there to
yeah,
change.
they'll come in with their shades and they're all, but those are the most fun nuts to crack, and some of them, they realize, we're here to get busy and do work, and we're here to change lives, and if that's not your cup of tea, eventually, because we do workshops, it's hands-on training. You talked about hands-on experiential. You're not going to just sit and listen, Commonly we get, things coming back from the guys saying, this is different than I thought. This is not preaching. And I'm like, no, this is not even teaching. This is training. and so gradually, some of those, little guys that are coming in for the wrong reason, they kind of filter off, But then the other people, I mean, they're in prison, people will take anything that will give them hope and just soak it in. I mean, they've just been in such a dark, dismal, hard place that they are dying for hope and positivity.
I did some work with the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation for the state, and we did a lot of prison tours, and it's hard to imagine, and I know they've done bad things,
Yeah.
but it's hard to imagine staying in a place like that and staying sane, to be quite frank, because it is dismal
Yeah.
and it is so limited. So I really give you a lot of credit, and I give them a lot of credit for those who actually are making the choice to change their lives.
Yeah.
So what leads you to believe in them?
Well, I think it's just, for me, being a woman of faith, it's like I know that God promises that He can do anything. It's like we talked about, anything is possible. I am absolutely an advocate of that. I mean, it's like there are things you cannot do your physically self, but there are things that God could come into your life and change you in ways that you never thought were possible. And, and I think about your quote that you opened up with for this segment, and I don't remember exactly what the wording was of that, but when you said that, what came to mind for me is a biblical scripture that says, do not conform any longer to the world. And when you think about in prison, you got plenty of nasty worldliness going on. I mean, you've got ugliness and just that darkness. Don't conform to that, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And that's essentially what we're doing through our teaching and our training, is helping people to see that there is another way to live your life. And many of these guys, they've never seen another way of life. They don't even know. My husband volunteers and he comes in with me as well. And the men will tell us, we have learned so much from watching you over the last 5 years, not even when you're up front, just watching how you and your husband interact together.
Yeah.
It is so foreign. We don't
There
even
you
have
go
any
again.
concept. And they're like, I want that. What is that? I want that. And so then,
Again, that modeling the
vision.
way.
Yeah.
They're seeing
Yeah.
something different
Yeah.
in front of them.
yeah,
And then
Exactly.
the opportunity and the possibility.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And when I think about attitude, especially related to the prison, but it is no different. It's a universal concept. But I mean, attitude pretty much can go two different ways. You can either have attitude be a source of hope, or attitude is going to be a source of hopelessness.
Yeah. Very
Because depending on which path you choose, you're either going to be inspired by your attitude and it's going to give you the energy to be able to keep on going, or you're just going to do in a downward spiral. And many times when we come in, that's where our guys are at.
I think it's got to be difficult too when they come to these sessions with you. Where are they going back to when they're done? That this is great. I'm learning something, but where am I going back to?
Yeah.
So
And-
is there hope?
Yeah, and if they can believe that there is hope beyond, then it can be okay. But if they don't, then it may seem that much more hopeless.
Yeah.
I came up with a saying that is, attitude is like body odor, good or bad.
Yeah.
because it will precede you into a room and linger on longer after you're gone.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
isn't that
yeah.
true? You know, someone with a bad attitude
Yep.
comes in and you go, oh my God, here they come. You can just feel that
Yeah.
negative energy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just it hangs on, and then it sort of, like we talked about, it's contagious, and
Yeah.
people, ew, you know, or what's wrong with him today? What
Yep.
got under her skin today, or
Yep.
something like that. So everybody starts nagging. But the same thing is true with a positive attitude. It's like, wow, I want some of what she has or he has.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah.
going on with them makes
Yeah.
you want to know.
Yeah, and and one of the things that we do in our classes is, we're helping them. For a lot of us, we've done all kinds of personality instruments, and we've learned about what are our natural talents and our strengths and things like that. But when we teach that kind of stuff to the prison population, so much of that self-reflection, who am I kind of stuff has never been done. And so there's huge insights as to why they're wired the way they are, why they have conflicts with people the way they do, and then realizing that's just the way I'm wired. That's normal. I need to learn how to walk through this.
Wow.
But then going through and helping them look back, just like we do with everybody else we've taught over the years. But in particular in the prison, it's fascinating because so many times you have a negative story. It may have started out as a very positive attitude. We have them draw pictures of their life journey, and you'll see pictures where it was like the perfect home, and then there was a divorce, and then there was a move, and then there was, a school change, and then there was friends change, and then all of a sudden there's a bottle, and then all of a sudden there's a needle, and then all of a sudden there's a RIP, tombstone, and then there's prison bars. And so you see the cycle, and of course, the addiction is a huge factor in people being incarcerated, but in the process of them drawing their life picture, then you're saying to them, okay, this is the journey you're on, but what's the end of the story? This is what has been,
It doesn't
but
have
how
to
can
be.
we equip you and help you see a different future
Right.
that is not just based on what has been? And so we actually have them write 5 ideal days in their life, visualization, where we have them look at how, if I have all these talents and these gifts and I've used them for very negative things. I was an awesome drug dealer. Well, you know what? You're also an awesome entrepreneur. There's some amazing
Look a
skill
different
sets,
way to look at it, yeah.
And so how can we transform those skill sets that have been used for evil and be able to transform those into something positive? And how can you take all the things that happened to you that caused you to act out the way you did, and how can you transform those into a positive future? And so we have them write 5 ideal days in the future. We have them write about, where are you at? What are you wearing? What is your environment? What are you eating? I mean, paint the picture in detail
Yeah.
of what you envision. And I was terrified going in, thinking, especially the guys that have been down for 20, 30 years, can
How are
they
they
even
gonna do
picture?
it? Yeah.
And then they would be going through and writing these, and they're sharing them, and they have tears in their
Aw.
eyes. And now I have the joy of so many of them have paroled, and they are living it. They have walked out. They've made choices.
That's
Some of
great.
them have not gone back to their counties where they came from, so they can make changes.
Yeah, really get
not
away
have
from
those same
old
affiliations. And now
situations.
you see people that are walking their vision, and they have succeeded. They're off the parole. They're doing awesome.
That's
and
great.
I'm like, hey. Hallelujah. One less victim in our world. I mean, gosh, and they're turning around, they say all the time, talk about attitude. I took so much from my community. I have to spend the rest of my life giving back. And not like I
great.
have to pay it back, but just really,
Give it
truly
back.
a heart of redemption and restitution. That's their way of wanting to give back.
Well, that's really powerful. In fact, all of your stories are powerful, and what we've been sharing, we only have a little bit left, so I wish we had more time. It always gets to this point, it's like, I want more time to talk to you all. But attitude is such an important thing, and how it impacts our lives and our futures and our children's futures. So sharing that positive attitude with is really important. Thank you for being here with me tonight,
asking
and
us.
thank
Thank
you
you.
all for sharing our evening with us on Insights on Leadership in Life.